Welcome back, everybody, for Season 2, Episode 7. Thanks again for joining me. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming back one of my absolute favorite people to the show, Mr. Ryan Sprague, and we're going to talk UFOs, the United States government, and our military. As you may know, there is this whole newfound concerted effort on behalf of folks like Tom DeLonge, Luis Elizondo, and other members of TTSA, as well as the media, to legitimize UFO sightings. And this is pretty unprecedented. You could talk all you want about Roswell, but that was a lifetime ago, and this is a whole new world by comparison. UFOs then spent the next 70 years in the tabloids. No reputable news or media agency would touch them or dignify them until just recently, that is. In the last 2 years, the US government has declassified, for the first time in history, 3 videos capturing UFOs. The New York Times published the original story back in December 2017 about video evidence captured by military off the coast of California, the Pentagon's secret UFO program, ATIP, and we also learned about the formation of To the Stars Academy. The Times published yet another story this past May of our military capturing more UFOs on video. And these were both serious front-page stories. DeLonge and his colleagues, former Pentagon, former Skunk Works, former DoD, CIA, they all appeared in a recent 6-part series on the History Channel, talking about these videos, the implications of them, talking to witnesses. The Navy even announced this last April that they're formally updating their procedures to allow people to come forward if they see a UFO to kind of remove some of that stigma. Like I said, unprecedented. We can't gloss over our history, though. You know, if we had government intel in place to steer people over the deep end 30, 40 years ago, well, chances are we've probably only gotten better at it. But on the other hand, the narrative they spun back then, it doesn't really hold up as well today. We have access to so much more information now, and therefore I think we're a lot less vulnerable in that respect. But to see the former director of the program that the Pentagon created to investigate UFOs walk away because he believed he couldn't affect change from within, to join Tom, Chris Mellon, Hal Puthoff, Steve Justice, it's really compelling. I've been quietly watching this for a while now, and the picture that's developed here is one in which our government and military seem about as confused and dumbfounded as anybody else. The secrecy, the misinformation, yeah, all that stuff definitely did happen, and who knows, it may continue to, but the evidence we have doesn't support a massive conspiracy. It looks like it's more to do with counterintelligence moves designed to throw our enemies off, in times of great tension between other nations. So the idea of secret pacts with aliens, breakaway civilizations, reverse engineering their technology, it becomes a bit harder to believe the more you look at this. We have highly trained career fighter pilots up there, either scared to death or completely at a loss, or both, to explain these bizarre things in our skies that don't behave like anything they've ever seen. They either report it, and at best, the incident disappears like it never happened, or they don't report it because the risk of getting demoted, laughed out of the military, or having their lives destroyed isn't one they're willing to take. It's ironic, think about it, because the government succeeded quite well in what they set out to do in delegitimizing the UFO phenomenon and sucking every ounce of credibility it could have had out and turning it into essentially a shit show. And now that people are finally making enough noise, they're responding and telling us they're definitely aware of the phenomenon, but attempts to so much as identify it have allegedly failed. More so, what they've witnessed and investigated so far is beyond elusive. It's impossible in every sense of the word, which, is kind of another way of saying we don't know. And we're really overwhelmed here. We're outmatched. We have no idea what they are, who they are, and we don't know how they're doing the things they're doing. And we can't rule out conspiracy or disinfo. It's happened before. Perhaps the whole thing's a smokescreen, the videos were faked, and so on. But considering everybody involved and the staggering amount of coordinated effort and energy that would have taken it's not really easier to believe, I'm afraid. So should be an interesting show. And I can't think of a better person to drop by and have this conversation with. Ryan is co-host of the new series Mysteries Decoded on the CW that just debuted this August. He is an author, podcaster, playwright, just an all-around awesome guy and good friend of the program. Hard to believe it's been almost a year since we've had the chance to catch up, so I can't wait. We've got a lot to talk about. Just a quick reminder first, you can subscribe, rate, and review The Ether on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Please follow us on Spotify and follow Ether_show on Instagram. And I encourage you to reach out if you have a story or you'd like to talk about being a guest on the program. You can either message the Ether Podcast Facebook page or you can email theethershow@gmail.com. I'll be back after this with Ryan Sprague. Hey, Ryan, how are you, man?
Good, dude. Oh, thank you for bearing with me here. Just trying
thank you.
Of course. I'm in the process of moving apartments.
Ooh, yeah.
In the same building, so that's good. But
sure.
All my stuff has been packed away, so I'm like trying to find my mic and the proper headphones. But I think we're good.
Cool. Yeah, never a fun situation there when you got all kinds of stuff packed away. I've been there and it sucks. But it's so good to have you back. How is life in New York treating you?
Pretty good, man. I've been back for about 6 months now. I was living out in LA, and the move back was well needed. LA just was not for me, living wise.
Okay.
The work was great out there. Don't get me wrong. They loved me. I just didn't love LA. So.
Well, you're from New York, though, right?
I'm a New Yorker through and through,
Makes sense.
And I will say, I met some of the nicest people out there. I'm not going to lie. But, for every nice person in LA, there's someone right behind them ready to stab you in the back. So I was like, I can't deal with this fake stuff, man.
It's a crazy town. I don't blame you for wanting to get out of there. Not at all.
Yeah. But my dream place to live is up in your neck of the woods, anywhere up there in the Pacific Northwest, as it were. So
there's plenty of room.
You'll see me out there. Dude, I'm not kidding. That's within the next couple years, I have no doubt. My girlfriend and I, we go to visit her brother in Portland all the time.
Nice.
And I fall in love with that area.
Yeah.
Seattle, Portland, Washington. It's amazing. It's me. I can feel it.
For sure. We'll see if we can't talk Jim Perry into joining us as well. That would be fun.
Oh my God.
He's up there too, as you know.
Yep. Oh my God, Jim's awesome. And
yeah,
I mean, it's so clear. There's something about those areas, like with what you do and what Jim does and your styles and everything. It just feels like that's where I need to be. That's what I need to be doing. So,
right.
No, you will see me face to face out there probably sooner than you expect.
I cannot wait. That'd be awesome. A lot has happened since we chatted last, and congratulations on the new CW gig. I'm already a huge fan. I love it. MJ's on it too. You got a really solid cast there.
Thank you. Yeah, it was it was quite an experience how it all sort of came to be. And
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. How did you, were you approached? How did that work? How did you get involved?
It's a really funny story. You know, I mean, I've been tapped for these sort of UFO television shows for almost a decade now, man.
Yeah.
And I just became so bitter and cynical because some of them were just god awful. You know, I mean, it's kind of the price you pay when it comes to UFO-tainment, as it were.
Yeah.
But and I'd interviewed for just countless shows, and none of them ever happened. You know, they promise you the world, or it's going to be, it's going to happen this time, and it never does. And that's show business. I get it. I've sort of been around that for half my life now, but I started to just kind of give up on it. And then I spoke at Alien Con 2 years ago, I want to say now, out in Pasadena, California. And a producer approached me and said, "Oh, I know your work. I've been following you for years. I had you tapped for this TV show like 4 years ago." And I'm kind of just like, yeah, whatever, man. Yeah, cool. I didn't believe him at all.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding you. Like 2 months later, I'm in the guy's office. He pulls up an email from like 4 years ago, and there's my name on there, him pitching me for a show.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. I got really to get to know the producer, his wife, the company, and I started sort of developing ideas with them about how can we bring UFOs to the mainstream entertainment world in a informative way, like substance over entertainment.
Yeah.
And, we were racking our brains, we came up with a bunch of ideas, and then the opportunity came where the CW network came to him and he was pitching a whole different show, nothing to do with UFOs or the paranormal. And they were like, not for us. Thanks for coming in. And it was one of those cinematic moments where he turned around, ran back in the room and said, "Well, let me tell you about this idea." And he pitched the UFO thing. And dude, they bought it on the spot. They shook hands that day and said, "Let's do this." And that's kind of where Roswell Mysteries Decoded, the 1-hour TV special, stemmed from. And then subsequently that aired. We did our Roswell investigation, and they loved it so much they bought a series. So it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I think that speaks to just the overall popularity and the demand for these subjects. It's definitely snowballing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a lot to cover here, but I have faith. I think we can do it. How are you feeling about it, man?
Oh, I'm good. I am caffeinated.
Fabulous.
It's been a good year and a half. So, dude, let's rock this.
Right on. Let's do it. I want to start with the Times articles, and I'll sort of set the scene here for you a little bit. Going back to 2017 here, Lou Elizondo, former director of ATIP, he walks away from his career at the Pentagon and joins To the Stars. And of course, then the Times drops the bomb, exposing ATIP and the Nimitz video from 2004. Before we get to the video, DeLong doesn't need an introduction, but can you tell us why people should know the name Luis Elizondo? Who is this guy?
Yeah, so Luis Elizondo kind of came out of the shadows, as it were. He was the former head of ATIP, the Pentagon program. And, even us in the UFO community, we had no idea this ATIP program was going on.
Right.
We'd always presumed there was some clandestine UFO investigation team within the government. But,
sure.
I mean, that's kind of how our tinfoil hats lean,
Yeah,
but since Project Blue Book, the official investigation of UFOs by the government, we thought maybe there's nothing to it anymore. We got to do this on our own as civilians. That story drops in the New York Times, and we learned that there was a secret Pentagon UFO program, and it was headed by this guy, Luis Elizondo. And I mean, this guy's got some heavy credentials. I mean, he's worked in counterterrorism, intelligence officer, U.S. Army, DOD, national counterintelligence.
Yep. He's
really done it all. And the fact that he was leaving his position because he was sick of how, the bureaucracy was within Congress, within the government, of how UFOs were treated. He was hired to head this UFO program, and no one was taking him seriously, even though he was bringing extremely interesting, compelling, and possibly threatening information to them. So he decided to throw up his hands and say, you know what? If you're not going to take this seriously, then I'm going to take it somewhere where I can. And that's when he left the DOD and got hooked up with Tom DeLonge, as we all know, the former Blink-182 frontman, and it was kind of a match made in heaven, I would say. I mean, you've got the head of a secret UFO program working with a extremely knowledgeable and passionate UFO enthusiast, Tom DeLonge. And then they gathered this team together, man, and that's To the Stars Academy.
Right. And I don't know about you, but when I first heard about TTSA and the people involved, I was pretty freaking dumbfounded. I didn't really know what to expect. Right. And now that we've had a little time to see what they've done so far, it's pretty interesting, I will say. That said, can you describe for us what we were shown from the footage of the Nimitz encounter?
Yeah, so the Nimitz encounter is sort of the most popular one right now. We were shown 3 videos that were supposedly declassified. The Tic Tac UFO, which is the Nimitz encounter of 2004. This was seen off the Nimitz carrier, picked up on radar by a gentleman who was, tracking these things. In this Tic Tac video, we only see one object. This guy said on radar, this was like a fleet of these things that he was tracking. And so what do? They send up Navy pilots to intercept this thing. And they said that this thing had no wings, no propulsion. It was dropping in altitude and ascending in altitude at like unbelievable breakneck speeds and then just disappearing. Another Navy pilot goes up and actually gets some gun camera footage of this thing, and it's pretty compelling, man. When I first saw the video, I watched it about 20 times, and I was just dumbfounded that not only had To the Stars come about, not only were we hearing about this Pentagon program, but we now had authentic military footage of these UFOs, and the pilots freaking out about it.
As would I, and it's really honest reaction. It's hard to make the claim that they were faked, to be honest. After I've seen him probably less times than you, but I've seen him a lot, and it's hard to dismiss those at all. So after this, December 2017, big story. About a year later, TTSA is kind of quiet for a little while, and then the Times is back with more shocking revelations about UFOs. 2 more videos. Another Navy squadron encounters UFOs, this time on the East Coast in 2015. And according to eyewitnesses, these things even followed them to an operation in the Mideast, which is insane. Lou, Tom, the gang then appear on History's Unidentified show, summer 2019. Have you seen that yet, by the way? Oh, yeah.
I reviewed the first episode probably about 4 months before the show released. With those podcast credentials, man, you can get pretty far.
Apparently, yeah.
So they sent it to me. I reviewed it, and I was just blown away. I had never, ever seen the UFO topic taken so seriously on a television network, and man, did they do their homework. It was beautiful. It was slick. It was informational. The entire series just really, it blew me away. And, I can also argue that a lot of it is stuff we already knew, but it was sort of repackaged and meant for a new audience, the mainstream who doesn't look into these things like I do freaking 12 hours a day. So,
exactly. And I think they did what they said they were going to do, which was take this stuff and put it out there for a new public eye. And much to my surprise, I was really impressed with the show as well, especially when, of all people, Greg Bishop makes an appearance. I really wasn't expecting that.
Bishop is definitely, when I was in LA, we would go to the coffee shop that I was working at the time because, got to pay them bills, man. Of course. And he would just come in all the time and we would just chat for hours and hours. So I'm so blessed to call Greg a friend and to work with him on so many different things. And when I saw him pop up in the show, I was so mad because he never told me about it.
Oh, really?
And that's typical Greg. He is a humble guy through and through. He does his work, puts his head down, does his work, and doesn't want any, accolades or anything. He just wants to know the truth about these things. So it was really cool to see him. Another really surprising thing in the show was a witness named Larry Gessner, who was former military. He's a sheriff in North Dakota, retired sheriff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He had a really interesting UFO case, a close encounter.
Yeah, he did.
And it was astounding to see him in the show because I actually, and I will take credit for this, I broke Larry's story about maybe 9 or 10 years ago now.
Really?
In a small alternative magazine. I found out through MUFON about his case. I reached out to him. We did an interview. And then to see him pop up almost a decade later on Tom DeLonge's show.
Yeah.
Again, one of the most credible shows I've seen on this topic. It just came full circle for me. And it really showed me, oh, man, this is worth it. Like, this is all worth it.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And he had a great story as well. I like that you use the word credible there, too, because I think that accurately describes it. It's a very solid show, very thoughtfully made, and I would highly recommend it to pretty much anybody. Moving on to the more recent 2 videos, we've got Go Fast and Gimbal. Can you elaborate a bit and tell us what this video footage contains?
Yeah, so the Go Fast video is the one that a lot of people will know. It's got the pilots locking in on this object that is literally hauling ass right near the surface of the water. Mm-hmm. And they were able to lock in on this thing on their cameras somehow. And just to hear the way that the pilots were describing the thing and how fast it was moving, that one was really compelling. But it wasn't, to me, as compelling as the Gimbal video.
That one is pretty creepy in some ways.
Yeah, so I mean, this thing was kind of classic saucer shaped, mm-hmm. almost like a top, those spinny tops. And what this thing did in this video, if we are to assume that this video is authentic mm-hmm. and is shot the way that it looks,
which it sure appears to be.
It appears to be. I do not think any of these videos are faked. Now, they could be misidentified or they are mm-hmm. still unidentified.
That is true.
And this thing, dude, in midair while moving, started to rotate. And again, we're seeing no wings. We're seeing no propulsion. And an object going at that velocity in air cannot rotate that way with a human occupant in it. I've spoken to so many physicists, so many military people, pilots, who have told me flat out, whatever the hell that object is doing, there is not a human pilot in that at all. Mm-hmm. Now, that does not discount that this could be a drone. Same with the Go Fast mm-hmm. Video as well. A lot of people do think that is a drone, and I'm actually open to that. Yeah. But this Gimbal video, man, this is the one that really got my attention and got me theorizing some stuff again.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. No, that one, like I said, it the way that it moved and the reactions, some of the people we were shown in the Unidentified show, their initial reactions seeing that, these kind of skeptics, it was priceless because they were truly perplexed and a little bit unnerved too. And I found that both amusing and a little vindicating. So switching gears here just a little bit. We all know, it's kind of obvious, our government has dug their own hole here, so to speak. It's kind of becoming harder for them to stonewall everybody, right? You have people from within like Harry Reid, John Podesta, John McCain, they're all pushing, were for the UFO subject to be researched, taken seriously. So, I mean, at the very least as a national security threat, do you think that this wall our government built so carefully around UFOs is starting to crack a little bit?
That's a really, really good question. The wall of secrecy, as it were, when it comes to the government, I struggle with that. I really do. I don't believe there is this, super dark secret group within the government who hides all the UFO information. It's cool to think that way. X-Files is my favorite show of all time. Right. But it's
kind of unreasonable, though, to think.
Yeah. I think so, too. But at the end of the day, man, the way I'm looking at it right now is, to the stars, they have their own narrative, and that's that these things are a potential threat. And that's what happens when you get a group of, former military, aerospace, intelligence officers together. The way they're going to attack this is, we have to look at this as a threat, or no one's going to take us seriously within Congress, within the government. I mean, you look at the end of that Unidentified show, and they're having meetings with Congress members, with senators about this now. It's insane. So,
they were in Italy talking to some pretty, these look like some serious guys.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically Italy's version of, A-tip, as it were.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are breaking down walls. I cannot discount that whatsoever. My big concern, though, however, is this idea of a threat. I mean, a lot of people are now going under that assumption that whatever these things are, they are a national security threat. And I can't deny that. I mean, you look at something like the Tehran incident where pilots almost lost their lives chasing these UFOs. And we've had other cases in the past where pilots have died pursuing UFOs or because of UFOs. But there's a whole other side to this that wasn't shown in this TV show, and that's civilians, the public, and the thousands and thousands of witnesses having these experiences as well. So, yeah, it's cool that you've got all these former intelligence people and stuff busting down walls in the government to try to get information or just to convince them to look further into it. But you also got hundreds of thousands of people around the world having these sightings too. And I don't think we should shy away from that. I think that's very important right now to invite the public into what To the Stars is doing. And it is a public company. You can invest in it, become a part of it. But I have noticed that the transparency within To the Stars Academy is a little not as favorable as I would like to think. We're not getting all the information from them. They're not willing to share it all. And a part of me understands that, but another part of me is like, dude, people are investing in this company. You got to give them the information. So I don't know. I struggle.
Yeah, I understand. It kind of sounds like MUFON a little bit in the way you describe that and just, holding on to the cards. But and you made a really, really good point about them not showing, I guess, the more human aspect of it. They really drilled home the possible threat and the military and government aspect. But yeah, they really didn't go into much civilian wise. Yeah, so really good point. Hopefully they'll maybe circle back to that and kind of feature that in their next whatever they're going to do. So we can't deny some of this sounds a little familiar. Our government's had a hand in misinforming people before. Paul Benowitz, Bob Lazar come to mind. I would like to talk a little about Bob. I think he kind of connects with some of the stuff in a few ways. Can you give us just the bullet points on what Lazar claims he did and what he saw circa late 1980s? Yeah.
So Bob Lazar, for any of your audience that doesn't know, this is a physicist who claimed to have worked at a secret military installation in Nevada. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. Mostly known as Area 51, which is popular right now, as I'm sure we'll talk about. But Lazar actually claims to have worked at another site a little south of Area 51 called S4, and he was hired to reverse engineer alien technology, recovered alien technology, presumably from the Roswell crash or retrieved by some other means. And he was brought in to try to figure out how these things worked and what they did, what they were capable of, and how could we replicate it. He said after working there, they could not do that. It was far too advanced. But in the time that he worked there, he saw some pretty interesting stuff, man. I mean, he claims to have seen photos of aliens. He claims to have seen different types of UFO craft flying through the deserts there. So, he came forward, and he is the sole reason we know about Area 51. No matter if you believe his story or not, he put Area 51 literally on the map so that the public could know about it. And then eventually the government came forward and said, yep, Area 51 exists. And it's interesting, man. He kind of went under for a while and didn't talk about all this because he received nothing but, bad luck when it came to coming forward with this. But now he's getting pretty vocal about it again. So that's kind of the legend of Bob Lazar. He's a very contentious character, and a lot of people have issues with his story, very viable issues. But at the same time, doing my own research into Bob Lazar, I cannot 100% discount what this guy is saying just from the sheer amount of things I've seen, sheer amount of people I've interviewed, and the way that these crafts seem to be working that we're seeing in like the gimbal video. They are so reminiscent of exactly how Bob Lazar described these craft working even back in the 80s. So it's stunning to me, man. He may always be an enigma, but we do have him to thank for Area 51 and for what may happen in a couple weeks now.
Yeah, and I guess, and we'll definitely touch on that briefly, but it's widely believed, I guess the popular narrative is that Lazar was picked based on his psychological profile, his history, to be fed a line of crap, basically, and blow the whistle, which, of course, he later did. And as you mentioned, we have Lazar to thank. We also have George Knapp to thank for putting Area 51 on the map. And Knapp, obviously, you've probably even met the guy by now, but he's the highly esteemed journalist who blew the lid off this place, not to mention Skinwalker Ranch. And he believes TTSAs are, their efforts are genuine. And he kind of went on record in that show saying that. And I don't take a statement from that guy very lightly. How about you? Do you think we're witnessing something totally new affecting real change here? Or are we just getting our hopes up again? Where do you stand now that TTSA has shown some of their hand?
I'm impressed. I'm not going to lie. I mean, again, I am on the younger side of UFO research. There are far more knowledgeable people when it comes to if we have seen this sort of thing before. And supposedly we have. I've had a lot of the older guard of ufology say to me, don't get your hopes up. This has happened before, even with some of the same people involved. And that's where I really was like, okay, we should probably be careful. I cannot, argue that they have made huge rifts, both in the mainstream coverage of UFOs for all of us and the UFO community as well. And I'm sort of a spectator at this point.
Yeah,
Cody, I don't know where I really stand. I'm trying to be as objective as possible when it comes to covering to the Stars Academy. I am not an investor, so I have no stake in it. I'm not one of these pro rah-rah to the stars, but I'm also not discounting it because, like you said, when you have George Knapp, when you have Harry Reid involved, Bob Bigelow, these are names that just up the level of credibility when it comes to this. So I think they have made some amazing strides. They have definitely moved the needle when it comes to UFO discourse, and we're seeing a wide mainstream acceptance of the topic now. I could go anywhere and talk about it now, where 5 years ago I'd go on a first date, tell them what I did with UFOs, and I'd never see these girls again. So I mean, that ridicule factor is being shed, and people are no longer embarrassed to report these things as much. So yes, they have definitely made huge strides. I will continue to cover everything they do and sort of root them on, but in no way, shape, or form am I ever going to invest in this until I see real progress with the mission statement that they have.
Yeah.
And I've yet to really see that. They've done really well in the mainstream coverage area when it comes to the media, but I want to see what they do next.
Yeah, for sure. So do I. And as I hear you say that, what comes to mind is the Navy, of course, just a few months ago, they announced that they're making some policy changes regarding how UFOs are reported. And I think TTSA had a fairly decent hand in that. So definitely more progress than I've seen most people make in a really long time. And of course, we also got to see all 30 some names of ATIP's programs that they were working on in January. So I think we're really seeing some significant real world changes here. And I think they appear to be, for the most part, pretty positive changes so far, but we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of Area 51, any plans to be in Nevada around September 20th, Ryan?
Well, I can tell you, man, off the record, or I guess on the record, we are recording. I was at Area 51 about maybe 4 weeks ago, so I think I've had my fair share.
Yeah, you've been there more than once.
Yeah, I know what people are in store for. A long-ass drive in the middle of the desert with no gas and nowhere to grab food or to do anything. So I think they're in for kind of a disappointment when it comes to storming the gates of Area 51. But it's no joke, man. The security there is tight. And I had some pretty freaky stuff happen when I was last out there. So anyone that's out there, make sure your phones are off. That's all I can tell you when you're getting close to the base. Vocally tell the desert, and yes, I do mean just tell the desert that you're not going to storm the gate because they are listening to you, not just on your phones. They have other means. And just be careful. That's all I can say. Just be careful. Area 51 is no joke. Whether it's aliens or UFOs or not, there is some highly classified defense projects going on there for our own security, and they have a job to do. So don't mess with them. Just be nice. Be nice.
Yeah, good advice. I think that's probably all the attention that subject is really deserving of. I find the whole thing kind of silly and a big waste of time to even think about going there, not to mention unsafe. So I'll be happily sitting right here, probably watching this whole thing unfold from my chair, and we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, where do we go to watch the next episode of Mysteries Decoded? When does that next one air, man?
Yeah, so we just recently had our Roswell episode re-air, and we are not done looking at UFOs. I'm actually heading back out with Jennifer Marshall, my co-host and lead investigator of Mysteries Decoded, to Area 51. So you're going to get to see my experiences going out there, and that's going to be September 10th.
Nice. Yeah. I'm marking it on my calendar.
Perfect. On the CW.
Yes. And any updates on any new reading material you perhaps been working on? I feel like we need another book from you.
Oh, I'm always working on it, man. I am deep in the trenches working on my second book, kind of a follow-up to the first book. I took a very human approach with the first one, obviously. That's kind of what I'm known for, interviewing witnesses and showing how powerful witness testimony can be and how necessary it is in investigating UFOs.
Yeah.
But I'm going down some new avenues with this new book. I'm really challenging myself to get out there, boots on the ground, and try to experience some of these things. Not just UFOs. I'm looking at the paranormal, the supernatural, kind of moving into some other realms to see if there are any connections with UFOs. You know, we always have these different camps, the ghost guys, the UFO guys, the supernatural girls, the UFO girls, whatever it may be. You know, we never really work together. And I do think there are some really interesting connections to be made with all these different types of phenomena. So again, just like within the UFO community, let's work together. I want to go do a ghost hunt. I want a ghost hunter to come out with me to do a sky watch for UFOs. I just want to bring these worlds together, man, and see if it's worth our time to look at these things as possibly more high strangeness than just flying saucers in the sky.
Yeah. Well, you got to volunteer right here. Next time you're up in the PNW here, I will gladly come on a ghost hunt with you. I'll even hold the boom mic for you. I don't care. It'll be fun. Apart from the new show, what's up next? I know you keep busy. What's the pipeline looking like here for you as we head into the final months of 2019 here?
This year went so quick, man. I can't believe it.
Kind of did.
It's a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to be speaking at an event in Michigan called the Michigan UFO Contact Event. That's September 20th and 21st. It's actually the same weekend as Storm Area 51. So
yeah,
I'll keeping an eye on my phone to see what's going on in Nevada. But yeah, if anyone's in the Michigan area, come on out September 20th. Other than that, I'm doing another Alien Con in Dallas, Texas in October. But like you said, man, just working on another book, going deep. And I'm actually, you mentioned Greg Bishop. Working on a little top secret project with Greg about, I'm also a playwright and screenwriter in New York City. And I'm always looking for some interesting ways to meld my worlds together, UFOs and film. So working with Greg on a little something he's pretty well known for, a name that you mentioned in this episode on a screen adaptation. So that's all I could say right now, but
okay.
Super
I get the
excited.
gist.
Yeah.
No, I am too. That sounds really cool and different. I can't even imagine what that will be like. So please keep me updated. I see your podcast is still going really strong. Can you remind everybody where they can find one of the best paranormal podcasts on the planet?
Oh, that's extremely kind of you, man. No, I would have to say the same for you as well.
No.
Huge fan.
Well, thank you.
That's Somewhere in the Skies podcast. Yep, I do a weekly show every week. Every Monday, I release episodes all about UFOs. People in all walks of life come on, talk about their experiences. Researchers, artists, musicians, actors, whatever. I just want to hear everyone's opinions on this topic, not just these talking heads or UFO superstars that you see in these niche communities. I really want to open it up and show everyone that you could talk about this stuff. So yeah, if anyone wants to learn more about that or my events or read articles. It's all at somewhereintheskies.com.
I will make sure that's in the show notes as always, man. Thank you so much, Ryan. Such a pleasure. And I hope it's not too long before the next time, my friend.
Not at all. I can't wait to get out there and meet you face to face, and maybe we'll have to revisit the Kenneth Arnold sighting.
Yes, sir. Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah. Let me know, man. I'll be here.
I can't wait, dude. I'm ready. Let's get out there and hunt some UFOs.
Hell yeah, man. I'm here, and you know how to get a hold of me. And go grab a beer or something.
Cheers.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. Take care, my friend.
You too.
Thanks again to Ryan Sprague for dropping by this week. I do so enjoy our talks. He has been at this stuff for years, and I couldn't be happier that it's finally starting to pay some dividends for him. I think if anybody deserves to be trending upward right now, it's definitely Ryan. He's certainly put in the time. But fascinating talk. I've been following the stories in TTSA for a while now, and truthfully, I wasn't really sure if I'd even cover it or when on this show until Ryan and I started talking about doing another episode, which was right around the time Unidentified debuted. And I have to say, a lot of stuff's happened in 2019, and I'm way more intrigued today than I was this time last year. A year ago, we really didn't know where any of this would go, if anywhere. And very few people knew what TTSA was up to. Of course, they do most of their work behind closed doors. They're careful and very deliberate about what they publish and when. And a lot of us take that opportunity to speculate about their motives, and I think we should. I still can't quite figure them out. I think my biggest contention has always been the fact that they're an entertainment company, albeit not your average one, clearly, but since when are entertainment/media companies crusaders of UFO truth and transparency within our armed forces and government? How many of those have former Pentagon, Congress, aviation experts, CIA, National Defense, just to name a few? How many of those attend congressional hearings on UFO encounters or allow the public to invest and own shares in the company? Contrary to my initial expectations, I think we might be witnessing an important moment in our timeline here, guys, because look, we've seen interest in UFOs explode in the last 10 years. Late 2017 onward almost feels like a culmination of that, Now UFOs are making the front page of the Times. Our government disclosed they've been investigating them and that former members have branched off to form their own effort. Active duty military pilots are on TV talking about their encounters. Every major news network has covered the Times stories to some degree. Congress is taking notice. Our military responded by, announcing official policy changes. The Italian government wants to collaborate and share what they know about UFOs. So who really knows what we'll see in 2020? But in terms of what we've seen so far, I think Ryan made a good point, about the overall tone of the narrative, the threat aspect, and the focus on military encounters, which I totally understand. I get why they chose that angle, but I don't necessarily agree because define threat. UFOs taking hostile action, it's not unheard of, but it's extremely rare, and I'm not convinced these isolated outcomes are the result of malevolence, but it is possible. However, considering how rare these attacks are reported, I'd almost err on the side of collateral damage from encounters with superior technology. Clearly humans have not mastered flight. Our most advanced aircraft, as far as we know, still uses brute force to stay aloft. So maybe the sky isn't the best place to be interfacing with these things. Clearly UFOs don't move that way. They don't work that way, as seen in the Navy footage. We're seeing something else that isn't just advanced. They defy our understanding of physics and how things are generally supposed to be. And the fact that these things like to hang out with our military and their nukes, that doesn't equate to a threat to me either. There could be any number of explanations for that. And it's not like they've caused any bases to explode as far as anybody knows. They've demonstrated control at times, but control isn't an act of war unless those powerless to it decide it is, right? We live in truly extraordinary times here. We don't have proof of alien visitation or evidence of black project technology. We don't know what it is, but what we do have, unless somebody else is able to prove otherwise, is undisputable evidence of UFOs. And it's not just the footage, which our Navy provided. It's the fact that they're backed up by multiple highly credible witnesses and radar. That's about as much confirmation as one could expect to get. And whether you say drones or take the crazy train all the way to Zeta Reticuli, it's up to the world to interpret it now. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how people choose to respond or not respond. And that's it for Season 2, Episode 7, guys. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Remember, it just takes a minute to open Apple Podcasts or visit iTunes and leave a quick rating. You don't have to be super detailed, though it's perfectly fine if you want. Just click on the number of stars you think it deserves and leave a few brief words. It shows the Apple gods that people are listening and taking the time to share their opinion. That in turn will help the ether grow exponentially. So thanks to all who have, and for those of you about to head over there right after this episode. I appreciate it more than you know. Don't forget to find us on social media as well. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me in the ether. We'll see you next time.